Imagine waking up to find that the very foundation of reality is not a rational, benevolent order, but a blind, churning, and insatiable force. This terrifying revelation forms the bedrock of Arthur Schopenhauer's monumental masterpiece, The World as Will and Representation, published in the winter of 1818. While the reigning intellectual elites of his era were busy constructing elaborate systems to prove that the universe was a theater of divine reason, Schopenhauer dared to tear down the velvet curtains of philosophical optimism. He invited his readers to stare directly into the terrifying abyss of existence, proposing that all human suffering stems from an untamable irrational drive that animates every single aspect of the cosmos. To understand the profound pessimism of Arthur Schopenhauer, we must first traverse the intellectual landscape of 19th century Germany, a realm dominated by the towering, almost suffocating shadow of George Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel. Hegel had convinced the academic world that history was a magnificent march toward absolute spirit, where every tragedy and conflict served a higher, profoundly rational purpose. Schopenhauer vehemently despised this comforting illusion, viewing it as intellectually dishonest and deeply insulting to the genuine agony experienced by living creatures. He isolated himself from the mainstream academic establishment, choosing instead to synthesize the transcendental idealism of Immanuel Kant with the profound spiritual insights he discovered in the ancient Hindu Upanishads and early Buddhist texts. Sitting in his quiet Frankfurt study, surrounded by his beloved poodles and an atmosphere of intense solitary contemplation, Schopenhauer forged a philosophy that completely abandoned the false comforts of rational destiny. He became the brilliant, solitary voice of the philosophical underground, insisting that human beings were not angelic minds guided by logic, but rather tormented animals driven by relentless, agonizing desires. The central genius of Schopenhauer's philosophy lies in his revolutionary division of human experience into two distinct, unequal halves. They are called the realm of representation and the realm of will. When you look out into the world, observing the gentle sway of trees, the geometric precision of buildings, or the delicate features of another human face, you are experiencing the world purely as a representation. This is the phenomenal reality that Kant had previously described, a mental construct shaped entirely by our own cognitive faculties of space, time, and causality. Yet Schopenhauer recognized that this structured and orderly world of appearances is nothing more than a superficial illusion, a colorful veil draped over a far more terrifying underlying reality. If we dare to lift the veil of Maya, as he called it, we encounter the true essence of the universe, which he identified simply and powerfully as the will. This will is not a conscious, deliberate choice made by a rational mind, but rather a blind, aimless, and insatiable striving that pulses through every atom of existence. It is the raw force that causes the sunflower to turn its heavy head toward the light, the crystal to form its jagged edges in the dark earth, and the predator to tear mercilessly into the flesh of its prey. More intimately, it is the exact same dark churning energy that you feel when you are overwhelmed by unyielding hunger, burning lust, or desperate ambition. Because the will is fundamentally devoid of any ultimate goal or satisfying conclusion, the entire cosmos is just locked in a perpetual state of restless, agonized striving. This means that human existence is inherently characterized by an inescapable cycle of suffering and deep dissatisfaction. Whenever we manage to fulfill a temporary desire, we are immediately plunged into the suffocating void of profound boredom, only to eventually generate a completely new desire that tortures us until it is satisfied. We are perpetually swinging back and forth like a pendulum between the sharp agony of wanting and the dull oppressive ache of having nothing meaningful to strive for. Schopenhauer systematically dismantles the flattering notion that human intellect is the master of our destiny, arguing instead that our capacity for reason is merely a weak flickering candle carried by a blind giant. The mighty irrational will completely dictates our truest motivations, secretly manipulating our conscious thoughts and elegant rationalizations to serve its own relentless imperative to simply continue existing and reproducing. Thus, the human condition is fundamentally tragic, as we are hopelessly bound to a chaotic force that cares absolutely nothing for our individual happiness or ultimate well-being. Confronted with this incredibly bleak metaphysical diagnosis, one might reasonably wonder if Schopenhauer advocated for total despair or immediate self-destruction. But in a surprising twist of philosophical brilliance, he argued quite the opposite, proposing extremely specific pathways to achieve temporary liberation from the tyranny of the insatiable will. The primary avenue of escape he championed was the intense, selfless contemplation of aesthetic beauty, particularly through the transcendent medium of pure instrumental music. When we lose ourselves completely in the haunting strains of a sublime symphony or gaze upon an astonishingly beautiful painting, the demands of the will are temporarily silenced within us. In these rare, precious moments of aesthetic immersion, we cease to be desperate creatures driven by lack, becoming instead pure, painless subjects of timeless, universal contemplation. And beyond the fleeting solace of high art, Schopenhauer pointed toward the much more arduous path of profound ethical asceticism. By cultivating deep compassion for our fellow creatures, realizing that we all share the exact same suffering nature under the illusion of our separate identities, we can begin to diminish the ferocious egoism that naturally plagues us. The ultimate philosophical goal is achieving a state of ascetic resignation, deliberately starving the will by renouncing our worldly desires and embracing a life of quiet, contemplative detachment. And through this rigorous self-denial, the individual essentially turns the will against itself, achieving a profound inner tranquility that resembles the mystical nirvana described by the great Eastern sages. The enduring legacy of Schopenhauer's uncompromising vision extends far beyond the strict boundaries of academic philosophy. His profound realization that unconscious irrational forces shape our behavior directly paved the way for Sigmund Freud's revolutionary development of psychoanalysis decades later. Writers, poets, and musicians like Leo Tolstoy, Richard Wagner, and Friedrich Nietzsche found incredibly rich inspiration in his dark, unyielding honesty about the tragic nature of the human condition. In the modern day, amidst the relentless and exhausting hustle of consumer society, Schopenhauer provides a necessary and deeply comforting antidote to toxic positivity. He powerfully reminds us that acknowledging the inherent suffering of existence is the very first and necessary step toward finding genuine peace and authentic, lasting compassion.